Hi there, we're back on the 67 Hail Hail channel on YouTube with me, Hamish Carton. We've got John McGinley, we've got former Celtic player Jackie McNamara on with us as well. Obviously a tough time, guys, for Celtic at the moment. So much been made about Neil Lennon. We touched on the players as well in a previous video. I think we want to use this video to touch on not as much the hierarchy at the club, but just the general way things are working at the moment at the club and how we can fix it moving forward. There's a lot wrong there at the moment. Basically everything seems to be wrong, from the on-pitch performances to the statements sent out criticising fans to numerous other things that have happened so far this season. It's a bit of a mess, John, if we're honest, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not just about Lennon, is it? We mentioned yesterday the players, but for me, there's been regression in many ways at the club over the last couple of years, and for all the success we've had over the last decade, and it cannot be denied, I'm the first one to acknowledge that and celebrate that. It's rather difficult at the moment. And, last week we spoke to Jackie about how it would be pointless to change the manager unless we're bringing in some kind of up-and-coming manager or some kind of new way of thinking into the club. Is that the way you see it now? Is that what we need? Do we need a change in approach and in general in how we appoint a manager and also the structure above him?
I think the obviously it's hard talking when he's still in the job. It was like last week, what's the right thing to do? And of looking at the squad just now, if a new manager come in, what would he do just now to change it? What could he do? I look at there from my side. You look at the team, look at the balance of the team. You've got a lot of centre backs. 4 full backs. There's no real out and out fit wingers just now. So the width is coming for your full back. So you need, and most of the teams have dominated in certain bits there and got in the midfield. So the balance of the team, enough strikers there, but it's finding the ones that are in form or the ones that can play with each other. I know Griffiths has stepped out again. He's picked up an injury. You've got a Jetty there who I thought would maybe be better alongside Edouard, playing as a 2. But again, there was no room yesterday. They overloaded their shape. So I think first and foremost, what can be changed. If you're changing someone there, what can they do right away to make an impact? Or would we do look for the window coming up? How far away is Forrest? Mikey Johnson? We need energy in that final third in the wide areas. Elyounoussi, as I said, he's done well in some of the games in Europe when he's come inside and he's bent a couple in, but he's not shown to be an out-and-out winger. And getting to the byline, he comes inside. So we're not getting in behind teams, we're not getting down the side of teams, and it becomes easier to play against, as we've seen in a number of games. To lose 4 games at home is very, very unlike us. I know European competition, but AC Milan aside, the rest of the teams are beatable. Ross County at home should have been a formality, but it wasn't. You're looking at there, as I said, when the team came out, you're looking at it and go, right, where are the goals coming from today? Who's going to provide the ammunition? There's going to be a little brilliance from Chrissy coming in and bending one in, or a flick from Rogic, which nearly happened, in fairness, and Jetty hit the inside of the post, but that was few and far between. When teams are playing like that against us, which they will, you'll see the next game, St Johnstone, they'll be exactly the same. Go a 4-5-1, which will change to a 4-3-3 in the space of the game, and they'll break. If we've not got the right people in the right areas, they'll catch us in the break, which you've seen with the goal. The lad came down the left-hand side, and where they actually meant to do what he done, I thought he was actually playing it to somebody, fairness to him, but he got forward and just put a ball into an area, and Stewart's come in blindside of Julian, who's on the back foot, and it's a penalty. And these wee things, you're 1 down and you're already struggling to break down a team. I think we could have been there all night. It didn't look like scoring a goal. And the personnel that we've got, is not set up to go and attack teams at the moment. We're missing things and missing, even earlier on in the season, Griffiths not being 100% fit. But Griffiths, for me, always carries a threat. Would it be a free kick? Would it be something there? He's always, you see him come on at Pataudry. He carries a threat, and he should, obviously, I don't know what his injury is, but he's been a miss, not being fit for the start. And I said weeks and weeks ago after the Rangers game, why the players, certain ones not available or fit. The manager can only take so much of the blame, but he's only got certain players to pick from. And I look at that, what he's got available yesterday, what would I do? In his position, what system would I play? And I think game to game, he's changed it. You think we spoke about after the Aberdeen game when they were excellent first half in the semi-final to get into the final. Then the Motherwell game, we were okay in wee bits and bobs. We scored 4 goals when we played the 4-2-3-1. But then we go and play the next game, and it's like back to square one again.
One of the things that Brendan Rodgers brought to the club, for all his faults, and we know how it turned out, and I'm not,
you need to be careful here, John.
I'm not going to pretend that I've made up with him for that. What he brought to the club was his own package, his own coaching staff, his own group of men behind him, and that's something Neil Lennon's lacking. I think we need that at the club. Lennon was kind of handed his coaching staff. He doesn't really have his own men in place. Is that something you think he's been battling against over the last couple of years?
I don't know the ins and outs in terms of the dynamics. Obviously John Kennedy's been there with Ronnie, then with Brendan, then he's in with Neil doing the coaching stuff. Then they've brought in Strachan, Gordon's son, Gavin Strachan. I don't know the dynamics of that, but Neil's always had certain guys around him that he trusts, and start Alan Thompson, McGowan. But I said I haven't spoken to Neil at length about the backroom team. Damien Duff, he didn't bring in Damien Duff. He was already at the club as well. Obviously, he's left to go to the international scene. But maybe things can be important. Yeah, Woodsy, the goalkeeping coach, is still there. He was there at Neil's time before. He seems a good lad and part of that team that you had before. So, it's only really the new ones would be John and Gavin.
Mm-hmm. And what's on Gavin Strachan's laptop, Hamish?
Did you see it when the second goal went in? What was it, 84 minutes or something to go 2-0 down at home to Ross County? Him and Neil Lennon both checking the laptop. I would love to know what it was possibly telling them at 2-0 down to Ross County with 5 minutes to go. What bit of intel they'd found there. It just, you know what it's like, John, when things aren't going well, everything is criticised and, every single thing is scrutinised by people, but that's just the way it goes. I think it's fair to say that, Neil Lennon's time at the club is coming to an end, whether that's, this week. I think it's inevitable now, in my opinion. Jackie, last week you touched on the fact that you felt that the club should, go after a manager on the up for their next boss rather than someone who's maybe on the down, I suppose. Obviously I don't expect you to give me names while your old teammate and pal still in a job, but if you were looking at the kind of manager Celtic could get in to take us forward, just expand on what you were kind of saying last week in terms of, would it be a manager who's maybe achieved something over the last couple of years as opposed to maybe an O'Neill or a Strachan, as has been mentioned in the press over the last few days?
Yeah, I think it's such a difficult decision. I really do. I think would you change it with? Because there's no point in changing just for the sake of changing unless you have something set up. And I think that's the important thing. And that's why I said you back him at this point if you're not going to change it, because it settles things down. The more you don't, then it becomes more and more news. Every day people's looking around to see if there's a statement there, because there's not been a statement. You know, I've been obviously through that myself as a manager, and it's not nice. You feel looking around your shoulder and people waiting to see if you're away and you've lost your job. But if you're only changing it, you know, you want it to be somebody that's going to make a instant impact. And to be honest, there's nothing there. I'm not doom and gloom, but there's nothing there, you know, in terms of what they've said so far, the names that have been mentioned, that would really excite me to make a change.
Yeah, it's a tough one, John, because you were obviously touching on the website about Ralph Ragnick, and he's a name that's been mentioned. But would the Celtic board allow or bring in someone like that that's going to almost rip up what they're all doing and you know, want more control? Because you know, we heard what was happening with Brendan Rodgers, and effectively from what I understand it was a bit of a standoff between him and Peter Lawwell, two really large egos. What are the chances we see someone like that coming in again, or are they just going to go for a so-called yes man to manage the club?
I wouldn't expect revolution, let's put it that way. You know, I used the name Ralph Rangnick more as a kind of indication of the style of manager that we could bring in that might be able to change things, rather than him himself. I think he's probably out of our league. But you know, what I'd say is I would love to see that. I would love to see someone given the authority to change the football department at Celtic from top down, and for all Peter Lawwell's given to the club over the last couple of decades and more. You know, he's a businessman at the end of the day, and I feel that he does have a little bit too much control over the football side of things. And having someone there that could be more of a buffer between, or have the authority to kind of oversee a manager, would be a good thing in my book, and something that we should be moving towards in the future. And perhaps that was always the plan after 10 in a row. But what I need to see from Celtic, regardless of the Lennon situation, is long-term vision and communication with the support about what that vision is. For me, there's far too much radio silence from Celtic these days in all aspects of the club. There's little communication with the fans. They're not even taking questions at the AGM, despite having the opportunity to do that virtually. So I've got a lot of problems with the club at the moment. I think it goes way, way deeper than Neil Lennon, and I won't put Jackie on the spot in terms of going after the club to that extent. But Jackie, I mean, what are your thoughts on kind of the transfer model at Celtic, and do you think a manager should have more authority than he does at the moment?
Again, I don't know what say Neil has in the transfers, if it's run by him.
I think it is, yeah. I mean, it's my understanding that it's kind of Nick Hammond is in charge of the scouting and kind of identifying players, and then I think it kind of comes down to Hammond, Lennon and Lawwell kind of get together on it.
Because they brought in someone else as well, didn't they? Is it Penrice?
Yeah,
they brought in Penrice as well. Yeah, but I think throughout it all, I think one thing that's if this year it's been one bad year, 2020, for a lot of reasons, personal reasons for myself, but
yeah.
I think one thing it's shown is with the Celtic side is how much we miss the support and how much they need the support in the stadium. You know, and to listen to that, and it's been sadly missed, and a lot of people, there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot spilled over because of that. And you know, they've not got a voice sitting in the house. It's on social media, it's online, and it spilled over, which was unsavoury yesterday. But we do miss the fans first and foremost, and we miss the fans. The fans, without the fans, there is no club, and that's not just saying it. This year has shown that. You know, you can have everybody else in there. If you don't have the fans in there to watch the games and have that passion, and we wouldn't be losing the games. Not a chance. We'd be losing the games. We'd be showing the players wouldn't get away with it. The match day and with the energy in the stadium. And as I said, I've never experienced what they've gone through. Maybe it feels like playing a reserve game or something, you know, and creating your own atmosphere. So I've never... I don't know what it's like to play a professional game that means a lot with not having any people there. And to create your own atmosphere. And you used to get that sometimes. The manager would say, "Come on, create your own atmosphere. We need to create our own atmosphere today. It's going to be tough away from home or there." But it must be so strange, and this year is just crazy. And I can't wait till this is all get back to normal and you get fans in there, and that's what I want to see, and then people will take it serious.
Yeah, that old quote from Jock Stein has probably never rings so true with so many Celtic fans. Yeah, I'd love to conduct some sort of experiment and go back in time and not have a COVID world and just see how this season would have panned out with fans in place, because I agree, Jackie, I don't think we lose a lot of those games, and it's not an excuse, because I get that every team is in the same situation, but I think it is a factor, definitely, and I think there's so many of those games this season. Sparta Prague at home, even the Rangers derby, there is no way we don't get a shot on target if there's a full Celtic Park for that game. It's crazy, but I suppose we should be used to it by now, because we're 8 or 9 months into this whole thing now. Hopefully happier times ahead, lads, but thanks very much for joining me again. Thanks for watching this video. Usual spiel about subscribing to the channel. If you've not done it yet, please give it a go, and we'll be back tomorrow with more Celtic content.